Does Borderlands hold the potential for a good video game movie? Welcome to Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Borderlands. Was it good? Was it bad? Or somewhere right in the middle. Let me know all your thoughts and be respectful of others' opinions in the comments below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you want to join in the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. But going right into the synopsis. A ragtag team of misfits go on a mission to save a missing girl who holds the key to an unimaginable power. Going right into positive, I'd first like to mention I have never played any of the Borderlands games or watched much gameplay. I do know the general look of characters and everything, which leads me into saying I went in going just to see what it has to hold with its story and just generally as an experience, and it wasn't awful for what I was getting into. There's a lot of negative rep on what the film held, and I generally had a decent time with what is all told throughout. There's a good amount of action that it holds an amount of different entertaining. Kate Blanchett had a great role for what she was doing. She did her best with everything that was provided, and the story went about in a fairly interesting fashion for what you're expecting out of this sort of thing. You're not expecting something grand, something faithful to the video game adaptation, but for me, I didn't have any of that previous bias knowing what I love about the video games, and so generally getting into this, it was a decent time just going throughout and being able to enjoy the performances for how much effort they put into them, and also enjoying the effects and the scenery that builds up some of my knowledge just of what I've seen of the imagery, as well as the translation of the characters. Have the ideal standard for who would be casted for each character, how they sound, or what they personally look like, but for just my limited knowledge of them, it did look cool. There's decent effects here and there. The CGI wasn't as bad as I expected throughout most of the runtime, and so generally this was a film that I could go in. It wasn't a horrible time, but it wasn't a great time overall either, which leads me into the mixed elements, to which I have to say some of the CGI was a little iffy here and there. It did have a little effect on my experience just being able to watch and enjoy it all the way through. There were hiccups at the beginning, what it was progressing, what it was trying to get throughout the exposition, trying to translate from its story, and so generally there was some slow moments that just didn't have as much magic to, even as someone that's not familiar with the Borderlands movies or games, it just didn't have a direct translation to being even a general experience throughout the whole runtime, where there's certain aspects of the narration or other things that I was like, okay, that's certainly an interesting choice. It doesn't take away my experience from the movie, but it did skip over some parts that I felt like it would have been more filled in, or at least the editing would have been more tighter as a film as a whole. And knowing that it's a film that comes from Eli Roth, the director, he has done other films that are rated R or horror films that have blood here and there. And I feel like that would have attributed a little bit more to a fun experience, even if it's still not a faithful adaptation to the video game, whatever that story all has to be told within the game itself. This still felt it was limited by the action. It sort of had promise to looking like a Suicide Squad type of movie or Guardians of the Galaxy, where there's misfits that are put together as a family and have to go on an adventure, to which some of it just did not work as much without the blood and gore effects that wouldn't necessarily ruin the movie that's absent, but it did feel like something was lacking from an overall experience for a more mature audience that this film already felt like it was lending itself to. Which takes me into the negatives, to which I have to say there was just aspects to the story that weren't necessarily thought out super well. Certain ideas of the dialogue, how things flowed throughout, just things like I mentioned before, that it skipped over parts, like it just didn't matter as much, and so you're not creating a great dynamic between all the group, how they get together. They're not necessarily understanding the particular motives that these characters hold, what they value, what they really want out of the future, and there's certain twists here and there that hold a little something, but don't have a big build up to the surprise, or don't mean as much because of where we started in the beginning and how it ends up getting to a particular point where something special is revealed about particular characters and the group dynamic as a whole. It just feels like it's lacking a little magic. There's quirky personalities here and there that diversify the cast a bit, that holds a decent experience to that realm, but it just doesn't feel like I can love the characters for their particular attributes and personalities, which takes away from the main focus, which is on them and their mission that is held at whole. And there's some aspects that just don't feel fulfilled with them, some of the ideas, some of where we're starting and where we end up, that just ultimately feels like it's lacking a little something, even for someone that isn't familiar with the story or the characters at all. And so, while it wasn't a horrible experience, I knew there was a lot of negative rep from fans of that video game series. It just wasn't something that really fulfilled me, even just going in for a personal experience, and therefore I have to rate Borderlands a personal 4.5 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below if you liked, disliked, or somewhere right in the middle for Borderlands, what you would rate it, and if you have had experience with the game in the past, or if you're unaffiliated with playing the game at all. So let me know all that. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, to join in film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.